Welcome to today's deep dive. If you're joining us, well, our mission today is to untangle the intense and honestly highly misunderstood reality of the Belgian Malinois.
Right, it's a big topic.
It really is. We're pulling our source material directly from a pretty fascinating series over on the Vital Pet podcast, and we're going to get to the absolute core of what makes this animal tick.
Yeah, we're breaking down exactly what you're seeing versus what's actually happening.
Exactly. So, picture this for a second. You were just scrolling through your phone on a Tuesday, minding your own business.
Yeah.
And suddenly, there it is.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say. The viral videos.
Yes, a video of this sleek, incredibly muscular dog essentially doing canine parkour. I mean, it launches itself up a literal 12-foot wall, grabs a suspended target, backflips down, and just perfectly sticks the landing.
It's wild to watch.
It's crazy. Or maybe you see a clip of a dog executing this, like incredibly complex high-speed bite work with a tactical trainer. It's reading these subtle physical cues in just a fraction of a second.
Right, the precision is just unbelievable.
And without even thinking, you open the comments, and it's just an endless scrolling wall of people saying the exact same thing. I need one of these.
Oh, yeah. Every single time. And look, it is a completely visceral reaction. I mean, you are watching peak biological performance on a screen.
Yeah.
And human beings are just naturally drawn to that level of aesthetic mastery. We want a piece of that excellence in our own lives.
Of course we do. It looks amazing.
It really does. But to set the context for our deep dive today, we have to aggressively reframe what you're actually looking at in those viral clips.
Right.
What you are reacting to is not just a dog. It certainly isn't a pet just hanging out on a Sunday afternoon, you know?
It's an athlete. It's an athlete performing at the absolute peak of a very specific, highly controlled job.
Exactly. And that gap between the screen and your living room is massive.
Yeah.
The reality is, this braid looks the most impressive in a 60-second, heavily edited video. But for the vast majority of households, it is one of the least forgiving animals to actually share a kitchen with if you go in unprepared.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand why this breed looks like a literal superhero online, but struggles so profoundly in a casual everyday home, we have to rewind the clock.
We do.
We need to look at the blueprint. Like, what were they originally engineered to do?
The blueprint is everything here. You have to go back to the late 1800s to the region around the city of Malines in Belgium, which is where the name Malinois comes from.
Right, obviously.
Yeah, and the environment there was incredibly demanding. These dogs were developed entirely out of the Belgian shepherding tradition.
So not a luxury pet.
Oh, absolutely not. The breeders of that era didn't care about aesthetics, and they certainly weren't breeding for companionship.
Yeah, they needed workers.
Exactly. They were building a biological machine capable of surviving and, working in really harsh, unforgiving conditions.
Because a Belgian shepherd's needs were relentless. They needed an animal possessing the raw stamina to move erratic livestock over incredibly long distances.
Through mud, rain, you name it.
Right, and while maintaining the focus to stay actively alert for, 14 hours a day,
Right.
they were essentially engineering relentless endurance.
Yes, but, and this is crucial, it wasn't just physical stamina, was it?
No, not at all. There's a psychological component here that I think people completely miss.
That psychological component is the single most critical detail in the source material. People tend to assume a working dog is, by its very nature, perfectly obedient.
Right, like a little furry soldier.
Exactly. We picture a soldier just sitting at attention, waiting for a commanding officer to issue an order. But a herding dog that only follows direct commands. That dog is utterly useless in a massive Belgian pasture.
Because the human shepherd can't possibly micromanage 100 chaotic sheep at the exact same time. The human is just too slow.
The human is way too slow, their vision is too limited, and, well, their reaction time is totally inadequate. Therefore, the dog was bred specifically for independent, proactive decision-making.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Malinois had to be able to read the flock, assess environmental threats, and make split-second tactical decisions when the shepherd was out of earshot, or just busy with something else.
So that independence, that constant analyzing of the environment, is literally baked into their DNA.
100%.
It makes me think about the massive disconnect in expectations when someone brings a puppy home today. Like, most people mentally prepare for a golden retriever.
Right, the classic family dog.
Exactly. And a golden retriever is basically a corporate yes man. They are sweet, they're eager to please, just constantly hovering around asking, did I do a good job? Are we happy?
Yeah, they just want to be part of the team.
But a Malinois is not a yes man. Bringing one home is more like bringing a high-powered, slightly arrogant consultant into your living room.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Right. The dog is constantly evaluating your leadership, essentially asking, is this command actually worth following right now, or is there something strategically better happening across the yard?
And that consultant mentality is exactly what made them so attractive to police and military trainers throughout the 20th century.
Oh, sure. That makes sense.
Yeah, those agencies realized that the specific traits honed in the Belgian pastures, the lightning-fast decision-making, the hypervigilance, the endless stamina, it all translated perfectly.
Into bomb detection and search and rescue.
Exactly. And apprehension work, they desire to operate as a tactical partner rather than just a blind servant.
Which explains why they absolutely dominate the elite working dog space today. But, and here's the catch, that exact same independent, evaluating mindset creates a massive, entirely predictable trap for everyday families.
It really does. It's a huge issue.
Because the modern breed essentially lives two parallel lives now. You have the working lines and then you have the pet lines.
Right. Within the breed, genetics diverge based on the breeder's specific goals. You have the working line dogs, which are actively selected for the extreme drive required in military, police, and high-level sport operations.
The parkour dogs.
Right, the parkour dogs. But then you have lines selected for a slightly dialed-back temperament aimed more at the companion or active pet market.
Gotcha.
So that means the internal drive of Malinois can actually vary wildly depending on its specific genetic pedigree.
Okay, hang on. Let me play devil's advocate here for a second because I'm thinking about a specific neighbor of mine.
Okay, go for it.
They have a Malinois, and that dog is completely chill. I mean, I see it just lounging on their front porch, watching the cars go by, perfectly relaxed.
I hear this all the time.
Right. So if my neighbor can have a relaxed Malinois in a normal suburb, why can't I just assume the breed is generally fine for a typical neighborhood?
Because taking a single anecdotal observation and applying it to an entire working breed is the absolute fastest way to end up in way over your head.
Okay, fair enough.
You might be seeing a dog from a very specific lower drive companion line. Or, you might be seeing an older dog.
Or they're just exhausted.
Right. More likely, you're seeing a dog whose owner puts in 3 hours of invisible, highly structured work before you ever walk past that porch.
Wow, 3 hours.
Oh, yeah. Assuming your neighbor's dog represents your future experience leads directly into what trainers and veterinarians call the honeymoon trap.
Ah, yes. The honeymoon trap is brutal, and the Vital Pet podcast sources map this out so perfectly. Let's walk through the actual timeline of a family falling into this.
It's so predictable, it's almost sad.
It really is.
Yeah.
Someone watches the viral videos, goes out and buys a high-drive Malinois puppy without really understanding the genetics.
Right.
For the first 3 or 4 weeks, it feels magical. I mean, the puppy is brilliant. It learns sit, stay, and heel in just a handful of repetitions.
You're sponges at that age.
Yeah. So the owner's ecstatic, thinking, wow, I have a genius dog. Everyone said this breed was hard, but this is so easy.
That is the honeymoon. But, as we all know, honeymoons always end.
Always.
Think of it like installing a supercomputer operating system onto a basic, everyday laptop.
Oh, like that.
At first, it runs incredibly fast and you're amazed, but within a few weeks, the hardware starts overheating because it simply doesn't have the cooling fans to handle the sheer, relentless processing power of that software.
Right. It's just too much for the system.
Exactly. The dog quickly masters the basic routine of your house. It figures out your schedule, it learns all the basic commands, and then, well, because its brain is designed to manage 100 sheep in a thunderstorm, it gets profoundly bored.
And an independent problem-solving dog doesn't just take a little nap when it gets bored.
No, they do not.
It starts generating its own entertainment.
And generating its own entertainment usually involves completely disassembling your reality.
Yep.
The sources point out this is when the severe destructive shoeing really starts. They aren't just chewing a shoe, They are stripping the drywall off your living room.
Oh, wow, drywall.
Yeah. They start obsessing over movement, fixing on ceiling fans, cars driving by, bicycles, or just pacing repetitively in tight circles because their brain is desperately seeking a problem to solve.
And once that honeymoon period crashes and the dog starts acting out like that, the owner's immediate instinct is almost universally the same.
Let me guess, run them into the ground.
Exactly. They try to physically exhaust the dog. The owner thinks, okay, the dog is destroying the couch. It clearly has pent-up energy. I'm going to take it for a 5-mile run instead of a 2-mile walk.
It sounds like a totally logical solution to a novice owner, but it completely backfires.
It really does.
Remember the blueprint we talked about? The Malinois was bred for physical endurance plus constant problem solving.
Right. The two go together.
Yes. So if you only address the physical side by running them for miles on a trail, you are ignoring 50% of their genetic makeup.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like taking a deeply frustrated, bored Ivy League graduate and forcing them to run on a treadmill for 4 hours instead of just giving them a complex book to read.
That is a hilarious image, but it's totally accurate.
Right. You don't solve the intellectual boredom at all. You just create a highly ripped, incredibly fit, bored genius who now has the cardiovascular stamina to destroy your house for 12 hours straight instead of 6.
You are literally conditioning an athlete to require more exercise to achieve the same level of physical fatigue while leaving their central nervous system completely unengaged.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It is. They come back from that 5-mile run physically panting but mentally restless, and the behavioral problems often just escalate.
So what's the fix?
What they actually require is intense mental work, scent work, structured obedience, puzzle-based feeding, or, specific tasks that have a clear beginning and a clear end.
Let's break down the mechanics of why something like scent work is so effective. Because I think when people hear that, they just picture a dog casually sniffing a fire hydrant on a walk.
Right, not the same thing at all.
Exactly. When a Malinois is doing structured scent work like searching for a specific hidden target odor, what's actually happening inside their body?
The biological mechanism is fascinating. A massive percentage of a dog's brain is devoted just to processing olfactory information.
Just smell.
Just smell. So when you ask a Malinois to find a hidden scent, they aren't just sniffing. They are pulling in millions of scent molecules, analyzing gradients, and essentially mapping an invisible 3D landscape in their minds.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. It requires profound focus. That high-level neural processing burns an enormous amount of glucose.
Wow.
It exhausts their central nervous system far faster and far more thoroughly than a mindless, repetitive jog ever could. A 20-minute session of complex scent work will leave a high-drive dog deeply satisfied and ready to sleep.
Because they actually completed a job.
Exactly.
A job for their brain. Which actually brings us to a huge point of confusion in the dog world that the source material highlights beautifully.
Oh, the trainability versus temperament issue.
Yes. The critical difference between trainability and temperament. People use those words interchangeably all the time, but they represent completely different aspects of a dog's psychology.
This distinction trips up so many well-meaning owners.
I can imagine.
Look, the Malinois is undeniably one of the most highly trainable breeds on the planet. Professionals will tell you these dogs can chain together complex, multi-step tasks faster than almost anything else with 4 legs.
They're brilliant.
They really are. That is trainability, the sheer speed at which they process and retain instruction.
But highly trainable does not mean easygoing or adaptable.
Not at all. Not even close. Temperament is the underlying foundation.
Okay.
Temperament encompasses the dog's internal drive, its sensitivity to environmental changes, its frustration tolerance, and its reactivity.
And how do they score on that?
Well, the Malinois scores exceptionally high in trainability, sure, but it also scores exceptionally high in drive and reactivity. They feel everything intensely.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. That specific combination is an absolute dream for seasoned professional handlers who know how to channel it, but it is a tidal wave that absolutely overwhelms novices.
Because they just don't see it coming.
Exactly. A brilliant, highly trainable dog can still be an anxious, reactive nightmare to live with if the owner doesn't know how to act as a leader and a partner.
Which naturally brings up the whole question of environment. I mean, if they need this intense mental workload and possess this highly reactive temperament, where are they supposed to live?
It's a great question.
We really need to bust a few pervasive myths here, starting with the biggest one in the dog world, the yard myth.
Oh, yes.
The idea that if you just buy a house with enough acreage, the dog will automatically be happy.
It's completely false. Space is a tool, but it is not a solution.
Right.
A big yard does not cure boredom. It
All
just
right.
gives a bored dog a larger perimeter to patrol
So
obsessively.
they just pace a wider circle.
Pretty much.
Mm.
If you put a Malinois in a massive fenced-in backyard and just leave them there with no structured engagement from you, they will still become anxious and destructive.
Wow.
And they'll likely develop boundary frustration, barking aggressively at literally anything that moves past the fence.
The sources make this incredibly clear. A small home or, even an apartment with a committed, deeply engaged owner works infinitely better than a 50-acre farm with an owner who neglects the dog's mental needs.
Absolutely.
It is entirely about the relationship and the daily routine, not the square footage of the real estate.
And that same principle of engaged management applies directly to family dynamics, too. People frequently ask, can a Malinois live safely with children?
Right, that's a huge concern.
Of course. And the answer is yes, many do, and they can be wonderful, highly protective family members. But it requires serious active parenting.
Because that herding instinct we talked about earlier, the genetic wiring from the 1800s, it doesn't just evaporate because the dog is now standing on a plush rug in a suburb instead of a muddy pasture in Belgium.
No, the instinct merely adapts to the new environment.
Oh, that makes sense.
Indoors, a group of kids running erratically through a hallway looks remarkably like a scattered flock of sheep to a herding breed.
That is hilarious, but also a little terrifying.
Yeah, their genetics tell them that chaos needs to be controlled. So that instinct often manifests as the dog physically circling the children to keep them in one spot.
Or nipping at their heels as they run.
Exactly. And to a parent who doesn't understand breed genetics, a dog aggressively circling and nipping at a toddler looks incredibly alarming. It looks like malicious aggression.
But it's not aggression. It's an ingrained motor pattern. The dog is literally just trying to do the job it was built for.
Precisely. And because it is a deeply embedded instinct, it has to be managed through redirection and structured boundaries. It can never be met with harsh physical punishment.
Why is that?
If you punish a working dog for expressing its core genetics, you don't erase the instinct. You just create a highly stressed, conflicted, and potentially dangerous animal.
That makes total sense. What about other pets, though? Like the cats or, the small fluffy dogs?
It's a bit trickier.
The source notes that this is highly dependent on the individual dog's prey drive. Again, this points back to those varying breeding lines we discussed.
Right. Early positive introductions are absolutely critical here.
So it's a toss-up.
Kind of. Some Malinois will cuddle with a house cat for their entire lives, while others possess a biological chase instinct that you simply can never fully train out of them. A fast-moving cat will always trigger the sequence to chase and capture.
That unpredictability is exactly why responsible breeders and rescue organizations are so vital.
They really are. They evaluate the individual dog's drive before ever placing them in a multi-pet home.
But we also have to look at how this intense psychological profile impacts their physical body. Because that constant unchanneled drive doesn't just destroy your living room. It actually takes a severe physical toll on the dog itself.
It does. It's really tough on them.
Right, because chronic boredom and frustration trigger this physiological cascade. A brain that can't turn off creates chronic spikes in cortisol, the stress hormone.
The link between mental stress and physical degradation in these dogs is profound.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Chronic stress from being understimulated keeps them in a constant state of fight or flight.
Wow. Just constantly on edge.
Exactly. Over time, that degrades their immune system, it affects their digestion, and it really compromises their overall physical condition.
That is so sad.
It is. Providing daily mental engagement isn't just a trick to save your furniture. It is a fundamental pillar of their physical health care.
And speaking of their physical health, while they are generally a very robust breed built for endurance, owners have to be extremely vigilant about orthopedic issues,
Yeah.
right? Specifically the hips and elbows.
Yes, because these dogs are capable of such explosive, sustained, high-impact activity. The jumping, the twisting, the sprinting.
Parkour.
Right, the parkour. They place a massive mechanical demand on their joints over a lifetime.
So you can't just take a 6-month-old puppy and force it to run 3 miles on hard concrete while its growth plates are still forming.
Oh, definitely not.
You're just setting a time bomb for arthritis or dysplasia later in life.
Exercise intensity and the type of surface they work on have to be managed so thoughtfully, especially during those crucial growth stages. You literally have to protect them from their own drive, because a Malinois will often push through intense physical pain just to keep working.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
So considering the sheer weight of all this, The absolute necessity for a daily mental job, the physical orthopedic demands, the management of pure herding and prey instinct, and the reality of that brutal honeymoon trap.
It's a lot.
It's a ton.
Yeah.
I have to ask the ultimate question for anyone listening. Are you ready for this?
Lay it on me.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, is it ever responsible for a first-time dog owner to get a Belgian Malinois?
Synthesizing everything we've pulled from these sources, the honest answer is generally no.
Wow, just a flat no.
Pretty much. And that is not an insult to the breed in the slightest. It is simply a reality of biological fit.
Right.
To thrive with a Malinois requires an owner who already possesses a deep understanding of canine body language. It requires someone who understands the mechanics of structured training and who can commit to over an hour of dedicated, highly focused engagement every single day.
Every single day. Like, are you willing to wake up at 5 a.m. in the freezing rain to set up complex scent work puzzles in your backyard before you go to work?
Because that is what love looks like to this breed.
It has to be an everyday commitment. You can't just train intensely for the first 6 months, graduate from some advanced obedience class, and then, coast for the next 10 years.
Absolutely not. If the structure stops, the dog's genetics do not pause.
They don't take a vacation.
No. They will simply find their own, usually highly destructive, outlets again. But, and this is the beautiful part, when that match is right, when an owner fully embraces the lifestyle and meets the dog's intricate needs, the resulting partnership is unparalleled.
Really?
Yeah. It is consistently described by handlers as one of the most deeply bonded, rewarding, almost telepathic relationships a human being can experience with an animal.
We've peeled back a lot of layers today.
Okay.
The biggest takeaway from our deep dive is that the Belgian Malinois is not a difficult breed because it is somehow broken, stubborn, or defective.
Not at all.
It is demanding because
Yeah.
it was masterfully built over a century to be utterly exceptional at intense, complex work.
Right.
The very brilliance that makes them heroes on a battlefield or viral stars on your phone is exactly what asks so much of the families who try to bring them home.
It is the ultimate double-edged sword of genetic engineering.
It really is.
Hmm.
So what does this all mean for you? It means if you're watching those videos and feeling drawn to the sheer capability of the breed, there's absolutely no wrong answer to wanting one.
Sure.
But you have to look in the mirror and be brutally honest with yourself. This dog will not adapt to your relaxed modern lifestyle. It biologically cannot.
No, it can't.
You have to adapt your entire lifestyle to the dog.
And that reality leaves us with a really fascinating paradox to ponder. We spent over a century meticulously engineering this animal for a very specific type of relentless, engaging physical work.
Yeah.
Yet our modern human world is becoming increasingly automated, predictable, and, well, sedentary.
It definitely leaves you wondering, considering how this breed was masterfully engineered, as we move further away from physical labor and outdoor survival, are we becoming fundamentally incompatible with the incredible working animals we spent centuries perfecting to be our partners?
It's a deep question.
We built the ultimate working machine, only to place it in a quiet living room with absolutely nothing to do. Something to think about the next time you scroll past a video of a dog flying over a 12-foot wall.